All right, hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming. And before I start, I'd like to consider to be some good news, and that is that hopefully come tomorrow morning, by tomorrow morning, 8/21/2025, if you go out to this site, https://github.com/Jeffrey Paul Scott/Jeff Teaches Programming C#, you will be able to get all of the code that I've created thus far. All right. It's not out there yet. It will be, and I hope to be able to put it out there tonight. And if I don't do it tonight, I'll do it tomorrow morning. All right. So that's the first thing. In the last couple of videos, I went over debugging and how to debug a C# program. And what we're going to do starting in this video is we're going to start on the other program that I said I was going to use as a cornerstone for this class. That is to create a payroll program. Now, I don't want to read to you, but this payroll program is going to have 4 different classes of workers. There'll be an hourly worker. Hourly workers have to work between 0 and 84 hours a week, and I took that based off of you work 0 hours if you're on vacation, or how there could be different reasons. 84, and I made that the maximum, and I did that because I thought, well, what the heck, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, that seemed like plenty. All right, and hourly workers are paid between 0 and $99.99 an hour. These are all arbitrary values I made up. So if you had somebody basically who was a volunteer, they wouldn't get paid. Now, if you work more than 40 hours a week, remember you can work up to 84, you get time and a half for hours worked over 40. And we'll put in constants for all of those values. We'll calculate the gross pay, so if you work 40 or less hours, it'll be 40 times the hourly rate. Or, I'm sorry, not 40, but how many hours you work times the hourly rate. If you work more than 40 hours, you'll get paid for the first 40 at your regular hourly rate. Then, whatever you worked over 40 times the overtime rate of 1.5. Second, we'll have piece workers. Again, these are all arbitrary values that I came up with. All right, so we'll prompt for the number of pieces a piece worker can make in an hour, as it says, between 0 and 100, and the amount paid per piece, between a penny and $1. Again, we'll use constants. Gross pay will be simply the number of pieces you make in an hour times the price per piece. Okay, you've got a commission worker. All right, and they have a percentage between 0 and 30%, which is 0.3, and they have an amount of sales for the week between 0 and 100,000. Again, all arbitrary values. We'll use constants, and the gross pay will simply be the sales that they made for the week times their commission percentage. Finally, for salary, and I missed something there. For salary, it'll be just literally, they have to have a salary between 0 and 100,000, and we again use constants, and the value inputted will be the salary. Okay, so let's start in here by creating all of our constants. All right, we said that we'll make all these, let's make these decimals. And we're going to have min hours, and that's going to be equal to 0.00 m. When you're working with decimals type, you use m. We'll have a max hours, and that'll be equal to, we said, 84.00 m. All right, so that'll handle that. We'll have a min, we'll call it H rate for hourly rate, and that'll be equal to 0.00 m. And we'll have a const decimal max hourly rate, And that'll be equal to, we said 99.99.99M. All right, so those are the program constants for an hourly worker. All right, next we'll have our program constants for a piece worker. All right, and what are we going to call these? Look like number of pieces and price per piece. So the number of pieces is that we need a min and a max. How about if we just call this min piece and max piece? Well, actually, those are going to be integers because those are going to be the number of pieces you make, and you can't make part of a piece. Okay, so we'll have that be equal to 0. We'll fix these. And we'll have max piece, which we said was going to be 100. Let's clean this up a little just so it looks a little nicer. All right. And we'll have const int. And we're going to have min pp price per piece. And let's see. PPP, price per piece. Okay, I like to have my stuff line up, and I'm a little quirky that way, so I'm going to do that right now. So the minimum price per piece is going to be equal to, and that's going to be a decimal, I'm sorry, because that's a price. All right, and we'll say that that is, I think it's 0.00M. It's going to move it over a little, that's okay. And the const decimal max PPPIECE, and that's going to be equal to 1.00M. Again, let's straighten this out a little bit. You notice that right now all of these are gray because they're not being used. All right, so I've got my constants for my hourly worker. I've got my constants for my piece worker. Next, I need my program constants for, and now that I think about it, we're going to add another couple constants in here. We'll say decimal max non-OT. So that's the most hours you can work without getting any overtime. And that's 40. Finally, we'll have one more decimal. We'll call that, how about over rate? So that's the overtime rate. And that'll be equal to 1.5M. Okay, again, we'll clean this up a little. Whoops. And there, whoops. And there you go. Now we need our constants for our commission worker. While we're doing it, let's just put in program constants for salaried worker. All right, so for a commission worker, what do we have? We've got the commission percentage and the sales. And the minimum percentage is going to be equal to 0.00m. And the max is going to be equal to 0.30m. Again, let's clean this up just a tad. And we're going to have sales. All right. All right. That's not bad. This is not totally lined up, but that's okay. I'm kind of sick of lining stuff up, to be honest with you. All right. And finally, for salary, I'll have a const decimal min salary, which is equal to 0.00m, and a const decimal max salary, which is going to be equal to 100,000 m. Okay, let's straighten these out. Now again, as I'm sure you can imagine, we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 14, 16 program constants in here. Now, what we have to do, we're not going to have, this is not a GUI program. So we've got to figure out a way, I mean, what do we want to do? Well, I think a good first thing to do would be to ask what kind of an employee we had. To me, that would make sense. All right, and to do that, let's create a simple menu. All right, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say static void show menu. And there's not going to be anything in it yet, but now when I call show menu from here, I'm not going to get an error. Okay, so in this, you know, this will be this function to show menu so that the user can choose the desired employee type. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so we'll come in here and we'll say right, and we'll put in here, let's make it a right line to start with. And we'll just say here, employee payroll program menu. Okay, I mean, that should be enough where people can figure out what that means. And we'll even put after it a couple blank lines. Oops, don't know what I did there, but not exactly what I wanted to do. All right, so it's going to say employee payroll menu, and it's going to have a couple blank spaces. All right, now a 1 is going to be for hourly, a 2 is going to be etc. Okay, well, what I'm going to ask them to do basically is to make a choice, so menu choice. So let's have a string in here. We're not going to do anything with this that's going to be mathematical, so to speak. So we'll just call this choice. And we'll initialize it to nothing. All right. So we'll say here, right line, enter a 1 for an hourly employee. Right line, enter a 2 for a piecework employee. How about, let's just kind of do it the way we did it earlier. So we'll say here, hourly employee, and here we'll say piece. How about just hourly worker and piece worker, etc.? I think that's what I used. For an hourly worker, enter a 2 for a piece worker, enter a 3 for a commission worker, enter a 4 for a salaried worker. Please enter a 1, 2, 3, or 4 now. All right, and then we're going to, whoops. Well, I don't know what I did there. I want to make that bigger again, sorry. All right. And we'll say choice equal read line. Okay. Now, after we do this, I'm just going to put down return. Why? That's all I want to do is I want to test this and see if it works. So let's do a save all here. Let's run it. Oh, it's not going to run because it's not going to run the one I want. There we go. This is from the last one. So this is first iteration, payroll console, pay console. We'll make that the startup project. Now it should work. All right, there you go. Whoop, that should have been a right, not a right line, but that's okay. So I'm just going to put in here 4 and hit enter. Good, that works. All right, so this right line here should just be a right. Okay, now it's possible when the person does this that they don't enter a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. You know, they enter something wrong. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, static void hourly. And then I'm going to have static void piecework. And then I'm going to have static void commission. Finally, I'm going to have static void salary. Now, I'm going to do something, and I'm trying to think of the word for it now. I'm just going to stick in here to make sure that these routines are being called. All right, so I'm going to put a right line in here. In hourly function. And that's all I want to do because that's where I am. Now I'll say in piecework function. And here I'll say in commission function. And finally with this one I'll say in salary function. Okay, now it's time to introduce something new in here. First, before we do, well, we got to verify that what we put in here was a 1, 2, 3, or 4, correct? All right. Now, there's different ways that we can check for this, but I'm going to make kind of a long-winded one. So, verify that choice was a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So, while let's make it an if choice not equal to 1, now I could have made that an integer as well, but I didn't, and choice not equal to 2, and choice not equal to 3, and choice not equal to 4. So if what we do in here if we put something in that's out of range, all right? If we put something in that is out of range, so not a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, we're going to say illegal choice, call again, run it again. And we're just going to call this show menu all over again. So we'll say show menu. All right, so let's see if that works. All right, so employee payroll program menu, enter a 1 for hourly, enter a 2 for piece worker, enter a 3 for a commission worker, enter a 4 for a salaried worker. So if we put in something that's not 1, 2, 3, or 4, let's try 0. Illegal choice, and we're told to do it again. All right, let's try 7. Illegal choice, and we're told to do it again. Good. Let's try a 1. Okay, now it doesn't like that. It says, basically, we haven't handled it. All right, and that's true, we haven't. So if we get down to here, if we get here, a 1, 2, 3, or 4 was entered. Call corresponding payroll function. Now I could say if choice is a 1, call hourly. Else if choice is 2, call piece worker. Else if choice is 3, call commission. Else if choice, and that works just fine. But there's another way that you can write this that a lot of people think is a lot easier. So I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to say this. Oh, I'm spacing here, so let's see. It's a case statement. Switch. So I want to switch on, oops, choice. Okay, now there should be in here only, whoops, I want to switch on choice. Okay, notice case 1, so whoops, I want that in there. Well, too bad. Case 1. So if that happens, I want to call hourly. And break. We'll talk about all these in just a second. Case 2. We want to call piecework. And then break. Now, for some reason, these should be moved over, and I don't know why they're not, but that's fine. Just this line I want moved over. Okay, so there's case 2. Case 3. I am going to call commission and break. Finally, case 4. I'm going to call salary and then break. Now, that should be the only 4 possibilities in here. But just in case something weird happens that shouldn't, I'm going to say if it's a default, there was a mistake. All right, so I'm just going to say, let's call show menu again. All right, I don't need the parens there. Okay. Now, it says, cannot fall out of a switch from final case label. You still need a break. There we go. Okay, now, think about this. Okay, we've got show menu. We're bringing up the menu. They've chose a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, now there's different ways that we can do this. For right now, all I'm doing is I'm calling these routines. All right. I could just return choice instead of doing this. Let's see if this works. So file, save all. Let's run it. You already saw if I put something illegal in, so let's put in a 1 in hourly function. So that works. A 2 in piecework function, so that works. A 3 in commission function, so that works. And finally, 4 in salary function. All of them work. Good. Now, like I said, I can leave it the way it is, which is totally fine. All right. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this switch that we have here. And do I want to call this from here or do I want to call this from main? That's the thing. I think I'm going to call this from main. All right. So I'm going to go back into main. I'm going to hit enter once and I'm going to paste that in. We'll go back over this in just a second. Notice it doesn't have a thing in there for choice. We'll add it in a minute. All right. So all we'll do when we get to here is we have to return choice, which is a string. All right. So instead of just return, we'll return choice. All right. So, yeah, it's not showing right now. So let's create that. All right. So I've got string choice. Okay, now it says switch on choice. It says unassigned variable. It expects it to have a value, but it's possible right now it'll have null. All right, so let's do this. We'll say instead of this, we'll clean it up a little bit. I'm going to say string choice equals show menu. So choice is going to call, show menu is going to be called here. That's going to return a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then based on that, it's going to call hourly or piecework or commission or salary. All right. Now this default now I just want it to break. Okay. So let's try this. I'm going to run the same kind of checks I ran before. All right, so let's put in a 1 in hourly, so that worked. We're going to eventually put this into a loop so we don't have to keep running it again and again and again and again. 2 in piecework, that works. 3 in commission, and finally 4 in salary, I'm sorry. And if we run it again and put something in that's not a 1, 2, 3, or 4, it just says illegal choice. Now, when we've got this illegal choice, would be kind of nice to pretty this up a little bit. So for all these in hourly, etc., I'm going to put a \n before all these, so we at least have a new line in there, prettying it up a little bit. We're going to get rid of that anyway, but we're going to do these one at a time. All right, now it just escaped me right now, so I'm going to use the internet and say, maybe it's just clear. Let's see if that works. I don't know if that's the right one or not, but let's see. So File, Save All, watch what happens now. Okay, I'm going to put in a 1. Oh, in fact, I'll put in an 11. Notice it cleared the screen immediately. Well, that's kind of bad, because before it does that, let's put a read line in here so you see the message. So if you don't put in a 1, 2, 3, or 4, it'll say illegal choice, please try again. As soon as you hit enter, it'll clear the screen and it'll call show menu again, which is, it's going to look a little nicer aesthetically, I think. Well, I could have done a hard reload there. So let's put in a Q. Illegal choice, please try again. And you hit enter and boom, you're back. Okay? Now 1 is what we're going to do next. Ooh. And it didn't like that. So please enter a 1, 2, 3, or 4 now. And it's saying that it exited. So we didn't put the right thing in there, so we call this again. Okay. It's not a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Otherwise, we should return choice. Let's put a right line in here. All right. So let's see. I'm going to also put here return right there. We'll just return nothing. There. So we've got this where we're switching on choice. Okay, string choice equals show menu. Let's do this. Let's set choice equal to nothing. And I'm going to say while choice is equal to nothing, call show menu. Okay, I'm trying to set this up so we can run the program repeatedly. Hopefully this is going to work, and if it doesn't, you'll know it as soon as I do. Literally, I have no notes here. This is off the top of my head. So let's see. All right. Hello. Illegal choice, please try again. That's good. 1. Choice entered was 1, but it didn't get me to, it's not calling this, it's calling the function again. So that isn't good, but it's good to know. So we're doing some debugging on our own here. The choice entered was 1, and that's not being returned. Return choice. So it should have bopped out of here. It did say the entered choice was this. So let's do this. Let's say, let's do a right line. Say choice is equal to choice. Okay, let's put a \n before that. Oops, \n. And let's see. I only want one blank line here. I'm trying to pretty this up a little so it looks a little nicer aesthetically. Okay, so File, Save All. We'll run the program. Let's see if we put something invalidly, not invalid, but put a valid value in. Yeah, choice, we've lost the choice. And that's why we're getting this back again, because it's equal to nothing. Oh, and I know why. It's because we're telling it to call show menu again, and as soon as we do, it's resetting. It's not, even though we return choice, it's calling this and it's resetting to this. All right, so let's see, how do we figure out how to fix this? All right, there might be a little faster way of doing this, but what I'm going to do for right now, I'm going to make this a void, and I'm just going to put it back to the way it was. In other words, main for now is just going to call show menu. Show menu is going to ask you to put in a choice of a 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you put in something that's not a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4, it's going to say illegal choice, try again. It's going to clear the screen, and it's going to call show menu. Eventually, you should put in something that works. So if it's a 1, it'll call hourly. If it's a 2, it'll call piecework. If it's a 3, it'll call commission. If it's a 4, it'll call salary. And I'm going to end up putting in here another \n into each one of these. I just want to be able to read it. All right. Shouldn't have been that hard. I'm sure there's a much better way of doing it than the way I've done it, but this is what I'm going to do for now, okay? All right, so if we put in, let's say hello. Illegal choice, try again. Okay, there it is. If we put in a number that's not a 1, 2, 3, or 4, so let's put in 6. Illegal choice, please try again. If it's a 1, we put in hourly function. Good. All right. Let's see. What if we do this? What if we go back into main here and just say, we'll put it in here. For now, I'm just going to make it a string. And I'm going to call it quit. And I'm going to set it equal to no. All right, I'm going to say while quit is equal to no, we're just going to call show menu. So hopefully this is going to allow us to run it multiple times. Now, there's not really right now a way to get out of it, but we'll fix that in a bit. Okay, so let's try that and see if it works a little nicer. All right, whoops, files, let's do a save all. File, save all. There we go. All right, now let's see if that worked. All right, so we put in hello, equal choice, try again. We put in a 1. In hourly function, there, but it's calling it again. A 2, in piecework function, 3, in commission function, 4, in salary function. All of that is now working. Now, why don't we do this before we run this every time? We'll again do a clear. Why? Again, I'm being aesthetic here. I like to have it look decent when we run it. Oops. So let's run it. All right, so we put in something illegal, illegal choice, boom. We put in a 1, whoops, a 1. We needed a read line in each one of those, so that's the problem there. Again, this is all simple stuff that we're doing right now. So let's put in a read line here and here. We just don't want that message to disappear. And here. And here. All right. Save all. Again, we put in a 1. We're in hourly function. Put in a 2. We're in piecework function. We put in a 3. We're in commission function. We put in a 4. We're in salary function. We put in something that's out of bounds. Illegal choice, try again. Okay? All right, so everything right now is working. Good. I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to come back in just a minute, and we'll write the payroll function. Okay? So it's going to be hourly. We'll replace this. Okay? And I'll be right back with that in just a couple minutes.